From stories across the globe to stories here at home, this is the National News Broadcast. A very good evening to you. I'm Sharifah Tahir.
And I'm Tilina Udayaratna. First up, your headlines for tonight. Sri Lanka and Japan agrees to enhance the bilateral development cooperation. The Prime Minister says that the inoperativeness of the intelligence services is the reason behind the Easter Sunday attacks. A foreign travel ban imposed on former Minister Partli Champika Ranawaka. The government decides not to sign the MCC agreement until after the contents are reviewed, the Attorney General informs the Supreme Court. The interrogation of the Swiss Embassy employee has continued for the fourth day. A request has been made to convene the working committee of the United National Party before the 20th. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson's Conservative Party secures a landslide victory at the general elections.
We move on to those and other stories in detail now. Sri Lanka and Japan have re-emphasized on the commitment in further strengthening the bilateral relations in the important sectors contributing towards the economic development and to identify these key sectors of interest. These commitments were made during a meeting between Minister of Foreign Affairs for Japan, Motegi Toshimitsu, and President Gotabaya Rajapaksa today. Minister of Foreign Affairs for Japan, Motegi Toshimitsu, arrived to the country last evening for a three-day official visit. The meeting between the Japanese Foreign Affairs Minister and the President was held at the Presidential Secretariat. 8 top-level Japanese envoys are accompanying the Japanese Foreign Affairs Minister. The Japanese Foreign Affairs Minister extended his best wishes to the President over his victory in the presidential election and reiterated that Sri Lanka is a special friend of Japan. The President accepted the invitation extended by the Japanese Foreign Affairs Minister on behalf of the Japanese government for a state visit to Japan. Emphasizing the stability in foreign relations, the President pointed out that Sri Lanka has no intention in intervening with the ongoing conflicts between world superpowers. A meeting between Minister of Foreign Affairs for Japan, Motegi Toshimitsu, and Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa was held at the Temple Trees this evening. The Japanese Foreign Affairs Minister presented a congratulatory message from Japan's Prime Minister Shinzo Abe to the Prime Minister Rajapaksa. During the meeting, the Prime Minister emphasized that he expects to further strengthen the present relations between Japan and Sri Lanka. A discussion between Minister of Foreign Affairs for Japan, Motegi Toshimitsu, and Sri Lanka's Foreign Relations Minister Dinesh Gunawardena was held at the Ministry of Foreign Relations premises this morning. The attention was drawn to many important fields of interest for both the countries during the meeting. The Japanese Foreign Affairs Minister also engaged in a tour in the Colombo port today. Minister Johnston Fernando welcomed the Japanese Foreign Minister upon his arrival to the Colombo port premises. The Japanese envoys made an observational tour in the Colombo port premises, including the shipping control tower.
Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa says that the inoperativeness of the intelligence services is the reason behind the Easter Sunday attacks. The Prime Minister said that the intelligence operations should be further strengthened to prevent various terrorist threats prevailing at present. The Prime Minister made these remarks while taking part at the graduation ceremony of the Defence Services Command Staff College. The ceremony was held at the Nelumpokuna Theatre this morning. The chief guest of the event was Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa. 157 personnel enrolled in the 13th course of the college was graduated. 139 officers of the Tri-Forces and 18 foreign students are among the graduates who successfully completed the one-year program. Addressing the gathering, the Prime Minister made these remarks.
Unlike the war against LTT, which required ground, sea and air operations, this new threat at this stage requires mainly intelligence operations. Unfortunately, over the past 5 years, the intelligence services were rendered completely inoperative. Members of the intelligence services were persecuted, harassed, and jailed by the previous government on false charges. It was not just the intelligence services that had to face this situation. The entire high command of the armed forces during the war against the LTT was brought before the police, with a great deal of media publicity, to answer to all kinds of allegations. The wartime defense secretary over the past 5 years will be rectified and restitution provided where necessary. Initiatives will be taken at the international level of restore to our armed forces the respect and dignity they deserve.
Minister Chamal Rajapaksa and heads of defence forces were present on this occasion.
The President's media division says that certain entities have engaged in fraudulent activities using the name of the President and Presidential Secretariat and claiming to hold positions in the Secretariat. According to reports, they are engaged in activities to influence and threaten the general public while making false promises to provide employments. The President's media unit has informed the public that such activities are taking place without any knowledge of the President or the Presidential Secretariat. It has further requested the public to report such activities to the police for necessary action. The Presidential Secretariat has requested the public to refrain from falling prey to such fraudulent activities. The Attorney General has informed the Supreme Court today that the government has taken a decision to review the Millennium Challenge Corporation Agreement, which was set to be signed between the United States of America and the previous government. The Attorney General has further informed the Supreme Court that the government has decided not to take any steps towards the signing of the agreement until the completion of the review. Representing the Attorney General, Deputy Solicitor General Farzana Jamil made these submissions to the Supreme Court when the fundamental rights petitions filed seeking an order to prevent the signing of the MCC agreement was taken up before a 5-member judge bench today. The Deputy Solicitor General further added that the present government has taken a decision to review the proposed Millennium Challenge Corporation agreement. She informed the court that the government has decided not to make any decision regarding the proposed agreement until the completion of the review. The fundamental rights petitions were filed by the Government Medical Officers Association, Attorney at Law Darshana Viradua and Venerable Anguruvelle Jinananda Thera.
The Criminal Investigation Department recorded evidence from Swiss Embassy employee involved in the alleged abduction incident Ghania barrister Francis for the 4th consecutive day today. The Swiss Embassy employee, Ghania barrister Francis, was requested to appear before the Criminal Investigation Department at 9:20 a.m. today. However, she arrived to the Criminal Investigation Department at 11:30 a.m., citing health reasons. The case related to the incident was taken up for hearing before the Colombo Fort Chief Magistrate Court yesterday. The Attorney General's Department has requested to grant permission to produce the alleged victim before a board of psychiatrists led by a judicial psychiatrist today. Accordingly, the magistrate granted approval for the request. Subsequently, the CID had taken measures to produce her to the board of psychiatrists. However, she was unable to appear before the board due to the delay occurred in arriving at the CID. A court order has been issued today preventing the overseas travel of former Minister Partali Champika Ranavaka and his driver Pushpa Kumara over an incident that occurred in Rajagiriya in 2016. The order was issued after considering the submissions made by the Colombo Crimes Division. The relevant court order has been issued and informed to the Controller General of Immigration and Emigration.
A meeting between President Gotabaya Rajapaksa and senior officials of the Ministry of Power and Energy and affiliated institutions was held at the Presidential Secretariat yesterday. Representatives from the Ceylon Electricity Board and Sri Lanka Sustainable Energy Authority participated in the meeting. The attention was directed to provide swift solutions for the issues prevailing in these institutions. Also, discussions were held over the upcoming new projects in the power and energy sector. Further discussions were held regarding the proposals made in relation to the power and energy sector in the Saubhagya Dakma policy statement, and the ministry officials have extended their fullest cooperation on this regard. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa highlighted the importance of attracting investors for new projects through appraising foreign countries on the policies of the Sri Lankan government to meet increasing demand for electricity in the country and following proper procurement procedures. During the meeting, it was revealed that even though many MOUs were signed with foreign countries in the past couple of years, most of these agreements were entered with private companies and not with states. The President pointed out the importance of conducting a proper study when implementing the agreements to ensure that no adverse impact would occur on the country. Many parliamentarians and ministers were present on this occasion.
A letter has been sent to the leader of the United National Party, Ranil Wickremesinghe, today requesting to convene the party working committee. The letter was signed by 2 parliamentarians. The letter had requested the UNP party leader to convene the party working committee for a meeting before the 20th of December. The letter has further indicated that the meeting should be convened to discuss over the prevailing political situation in the country and the nominations for the designations of the party. Meanwhile, a special statement was issued by the committee appointed to submit recommendations on party reforms. The statement was issued by parliamentarians Lakshman Kiriyalla, Vajira Abeyewardene and Professor Ashu Marasinghe. The statement has pointed out that sharing personal opinions and stances during a media briefing has disrupted the process made to bring in party reforms and failed to comply to the duties bestowed on the committee. The statement has further indicated that opinions on the party reforms should have been made within the committee and not on a public platform. The statement further read that the recommendations of the committee should be presented before the 20th of December, and the committee has reached an agreement to appoint parliamentarian Sajith Premadasa as the opposition leader as well as the Prime Minister candidate at the next general election. The aim of the party is to reach an agreement harmoniously before the end of next week after consulting the office bearers of the party, senior members, backbench MPs as well as religious leaders led by the Mahasangha over the recommendations. The statement has further indicated that it is regrettable that engaging in such offensive actions towards the party and party members claiming to create new parties and contest the upcoming election through these parties and attempting to disrupt the party reformation process to create disharmony within the party. Well, British Prime Minister Boris Johnson's Conservative Party has won a resounding overall majority in the United Kingdom's snap general election. Official results from yesterday's poll show the Conservatives had won 364 out of the 650 seats up for grabs in the House of Commons today. The voter turnout was around 67%. The Conservatives secured their biggest majority at Westminster since 1987, delivering a landslide victory, leaving the opposition Labour and Liberal Democrats parties seeking new leaders. Jeremy Corbyn announced he would not contest another election as Labour leader after the party's defeat, while the Liberal Democrats have announced that Ed Davey and Sal Brinton will become its joint acting leaders. Prime Minister Johnson secured a majority of 78, with the Conservatives taking 364 seats, up by 49 compared to the previous results, vindicating his decision to seek a bigger majority. Labour won 203 seats, down 60 from the previous results. The Scottish National Party secured 48 seats and the Liberal Democrats were left with only 11 seats, while the Democratic Unionist Party won 8 seats. The opposition was swept aside by the Conservatives in its traditional heartlands in the Midlands and northeastern England, and also lost 6 seats in Wales. In his victory speech, Prime Minister Johnson said it was a new dawn for the country and vowed to lead a people's government and fulfill the sacred trust placed on him.
Continuing on the same note, electing its first Conservative Member of Parliament since it became two constituencies in 1974, West Bromwich in the Midlands is emblematic of the pro-Brexit shock in Labour heartlands, which handed Boris Johnson a majority government today. We have this report from the Reuters.
Long part of the Labour Party's so-called Red Wall, but not anymore. The former coal mining town in the English Midlands had voted Labour since 1974. On Friday, it went Conservative. Its industrial past made it a Labour stronghold, but West Bromwich is emblematic of how Brexit has shattered old party loyalties in the UK. It voted 70% to leave in 2016.
Well, I voted Boris because I believe that the people three and a half years ago who voted to leave, they should have respected that, and they didn't. So I voted for Conservative. I've always voted for Labour, as my mum and dad did, but this time it's Boris.
78-year-old Leave supporter Tony Williams didn't vote Labour for the first time ever.
Because we voted for Brexit, and they've ignored it. That should have been dealt with 3 years ago, that should.
Many former Labour voters also summed up why they changed their support in just 2 words.
Jeremy Corbyn, that's what he stood for. It's only one bloke who stopped in Jeremy Corbyn. Nobody likes him.
Would have been Labour. I'm a typical working class bloke, that's it.
But this time, how did you vote?
Conservative.
Why was that?
Because Corbyn. Plain and simple.
There were some voters in West Bromwich who did stick with Labour, but it wasn't enough to stop the Conservatives gaining both seats in the town and a big majority nationwide.
Moving on to more local stories now, Media Secretary to the National Freedom Front, Mohammed Muzammil, lodged a complaint to the CID today against former Minister Dr. Rajitha Senaratne over a financial fraud during his ministerial tenure. He has alleged the former minister for misappropriating more than 3 million rupees per year for the maintenance of Neville Fernando Private Hospital without taking it over the government. The Financial Crimes Investigation Department officers have stated that they cannot accept the complaint. When Media Secretary to the National Freedom Front, Mohammed Muzammil, arrived at the division to lodge the complaint. Subsequently, he had visited CID to lodge the complaint against former Minister Dr. Rajitha Senaratne.
Newly crowned Mrs. World 2020, Caroline Jury, visited the Sri Lanka Rupavahini Corporation today. She took part in the national television's Nuga 7 program as a special guest. Lanka Rupavahini Corporation this morning and was welcomed by the senior staff of the corporation, led by Deputy Director of the National Television Sumedha Atulasiri, Director of Variety Programs Palitha Vijayasinghe and the Director of Educational Programs Erin Vijayakon. Subsequently, she made a note in the special guests book of the national television.
සවන මැදිරියට ඔබේ වැඩසටහනට කාන්තාවන්ගේ අභිමානය සුරකින්න වැඩසටහනට අපි ආරාධනා කළා. ඇයව මල් කලබක් දී පිළිගන්නා මොහොත
She then took part in the Nuga 7 live program along with her husband Nishant Deepal and national organizer of the Mrs. Sri Lanka pageant Chandimal Jayasinghe. Mrs. World 2020, Caroline Jury, said that she is ready to assist the next participants of the competition. 50% of the pageant is based on the knowledge of the participants, and she is more than willing to train the next lot on how to respond to the questions asked during the competition. The national television gave the opportunity for artist Gihan Sadhanuan to draw a portrait of Mrs. World 2020 during the live program. The completed drawing was presented to Caroline jury at the end of the show. She expressed her gratitude to the Sri Lanka Rupavahini Corporation for inviting her for the program after her triumph. After the Nuga 7 live program, she made a visit to the news studio of the national television.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mali. Drawing එක ඇත්තටම හරි ලස්සනයි. මේ welcome ඉඳන්ම මාවත් පිළිගත්තට thank you so much. My victory, I really want to help the BU campaign, which I have my own campaign. I want to help the children who are suffering from hate and depression, and as well in Sri Lanka, the children who are the poorest children, I want to help them and give them the need. So I'm really proud to be a mom, and I'm really blessed to have this wonderful opportunity to help the poorest children in our country. Right now we are having a meeting going on that Mrs. World 2021 to have it in Sri Lanka. So we are asking the support to help us to bring the 43 countries to Sri Lanka, and it will be my last walk. I'm going to represent my country. So when I'm going to hand over the crown to a different country, or maybe in our country, so I want the great and honor to bring it in Sri Lanka, so at least our tourism will be developed as well.
And in the meantime, a rise in dengue fever can be observed with the prevailed rainy condition in the country. The dengue epidemic is swiftly spreading across several districts in the country thus far. Cases of patients with the dengue fever were reported from the Colombo, Gampaha, Kandy, Matale, Ratnapura, Jaffna, Trincomalee and Batticaloa districts. The highest number of cases has been reported from the Jaffna, Trincomalee and Batticaloa districts. The director of the National Dengue Control Unit, Aruna Jayasekara, said that due to the widespread dengue fever, if a person shows symptoms such as sudden high fever, severe headache, severe joint and muscle pain, nausea, fatigue and skin rashes, they should be directed for treatment immediately. He requested the general public to take measures to clean the residences and the vicinities and destroy the breeding spots to prevent the spread of the dengue epidemic.
A solar-powered three-wheeler was introduced for the first time in the history of the country today. The introduction was made at the 2019 Vidulka National Power and Energy Conference held at the BMICH premises. The ceremony was held under the patronage of Minister Mahinda Amaravira. The pilot project was initiated by Korean Power and Energy Institute in collaboration with Sri Lanka Sustainable Energy Authority. The entire transport system in the country is solely dependent on the petroleum-based fuel. 25% of the total export revenue has been allocated on the fuel imports to the country. Therefore, the aim of the project is to promote electric three-wheelers in the country. These three-wheelers set to be registered with the Motor Traffic Department and utilized for short-distance tours.
Minister Bandula Gunawardena says that the present government has no intention of privatizing the postal service. The minister pointed out that several revenue-earning divisions of the postal department had been privatized under the previous government. The minister made these remarks while assuming duties at the postal headquarters this morning. Minister Bandula Gunawardena said that many potential profit-earning divisions of the postal department and gradually developed postal sectors had been privatized in the recent past. The present government has no policy to privatize the postal service. He added that he expects to take necessary steps to develop the postal service as a revenue-earning state institution and function as an institution to provide postal service facilities and other facilities using state-of-the-art technology while resolving the prevailing issues pertaining to the department. Measures will be taken to take over the divisions which have been privatized. Meanwhile, Minister Bandula Gunawardena engaged in an observational tour in the Sri Lanka Institute of Advanced Technological Education premises today. The minister also held a meeting with the officials of the institute.
The All Shares Price Index closed at 6,089.67 points, dropped by minus 9.99 points, and the S&P 20 index closed at 2,958.71 points, also increased by 3.49 points at the end of trading in the Colombo Stock Exchange today. Turnover was over 379 million rupees. Here's a summary of market details of the Colombo Stock Exchange today.
And taking a look at the weather, the meteorological department says that several spells of showers will occur in Uva and Eastern provinces and in the Jaffna, Mullatiu, Kilinochchi and Hambantota districts. Light showers may occur in Anuradhapura and Polonnaruwa. Showers or thundershowers may occur at several places in Sabaragamu, Western and Northwestern provinces after 2 p.m. The general public is kindly requested to take all adequate precautions to minimize damages caused by temporary, localized strong winds and lightning during thunder showers. Well, that's a wrap on tonight's national news broadcast. Join us once again tomorrow. Until then, good night.